It was Christmas night, and most of the world was asleep, unaware that something unprecedented was unfolding in the silver market. Suddenly, three major agencies, completely silent, to the public, initiated a coordinated attack on silver. Prices didn't just dip. They were pressured systematically, quietly, and deliberately. This was not a reaction to supply, demand, or speculation. This was strategy. While millions celebrated with lights, gifts, and dinners, the silver market was being manipulated on a scale most investors couldn't comprehend. The consequences weren't immediate, but they were inevitable. Systems that rely on trust and transparency suddenly faced a reality they were unprepared for. This wasn't a Christmas miracle. It was a market shock designed to control, confuse, and extract leverage. By the end of this video, you'll understand who acted, why they acted, and why this night may mark a turning point in the history of silver trading. Markets rarely reveal their deepest truths in public, but tonight, the data cannot lie. Welcome to Boring Silver Mystery, the channel where quiet patterns reveal the loudest market truths. Three agencies, powerful, interconnected, and strategic, acted in unison while the world slept. Their goal wasn't speculation. It wasn't chaos for its own sake. It was control. Understanding this event requires more than looking at price charts. It requires dissecting timing, tactics, and the subtle ways in which physical silver interacts with paper markets. In this video, we'll uncover the mechanics of the midnight attack, explore why it was possible, and break down what this means for anyone holding silver today. This isn't hype. On Christmas Eve, silver markets were calm. Volumes were thin. Futures prices moved little, and physical deliveries seemed normal. That calm, however, was misleading. Markets rely on liquidity, and holiday periods are notorious for thinning. In thin markets, a few well-timed interventions can have outsized effects. What most traders thought was seasonal quiet was, in fact, the perfect environment for coordinated action. And physical silver signals were masked to prevent immediate recognition. The calm had been a setup. The midnight timing ensured the attack went unnoticed until after the first wave of damage had been inflicted. The agencies behind this move are not retail investors or typical trading houses. They are institutional, heavily capitalized, and interconnected with both regulatory and banking systems. While identities remain officially undisclosed, market observers have deduced that each had a distinct role. One acted to compress futures prices. Another coordinated physical metal allocations to create scarcity signals, and the third enforced derivative positions to amplify volatility. Understanding these players is critical because their influence extends beyond just silver. They can manipulate market psychology, supply flows, and leverage positions. Recognizing the difference between structural market behavior and engineered events is key to protecting capital and interpreting signals correctly. This is the kind of subtlety few retail traders ever notice. This attack relied on a combination of thin liquidity, synchronized trading, and derivative positioning. The agencies used futures to create downward momentum, while simultaneously influencing options markets to increase perceived risk. Each action alone would be inconspicuous, but together they created a wave of stress across the system. Trades were timed to occur at the exact moment global attention was lowest, exploiting the gap between physical and paper pricing. This is how markets are silently manipulated without triggering immediate alarm. When liquidity is low, small interventions produce large movements, futures contracts become more sensitive, premiums spike, and banks with leveraged positions find themselves in vulnerable spots. Meanwhile, the underlying structure of the silver market had already been stressed. By exploiting timing, these agencies effectively performed an experiment on market psychology, testing thresholds, liquidity, and institutional response, all under the cover of holiday inactivity. One of the immediate consequences of the attack was the creation of a cross-market arbitrage tension. Shanghai and Western silver prices began to diverge, with premium signals appearing in physical markets that were not reflected in futures. Normally, traders would bridge this gap, but the coordinated intervention prevented normal flows. This created artificial scarcity signals and trapped certain institutional positions. The attack was designed to force exposure from banks and traders who relied on the integrity of cross-market arbitrage. When arbitrage fails, confidence in price discovery is compromised. Market participants are forced to rely on partial information, which amplifies volatility and uncertainty. This is exactly what the agencies intended, by constraining the system. They increased the leverage and stress of participants without overtly crashing the market. Banks rely on silver as a hedge, a trading asset, and a source of leverage. The midnight attack exposed structural vulnerabilities in how banks hold and hedge physical metal. By pressuring futures and limiting access to physical silver, the agencies forced certain positions into stress. Banks could no longer easily arbitrage or cover exposure without triggering market reactions. The attack didn't bankrupt institutions, it stressed them, demonstrating fragility and testing limits. It was a controlled experiment disguised as normal market activity. This is significant because it shows that even highly capitalized entities are vulnerable when markets are engineered with precision. The difference between a normal day and Christmas night demonstrates how timing, coordination, and market psychology combine to produce outsized effects. Physical silver plays a unique role in these events. While paper contracts can be rolled or settled in cash, physical metal is finite and requires delivery. By influencing the flow of physical silver, the agencies created scarcity signals that amplified the market stress. Retail traders and institutions focusing only on paper markets failed to notice these structural pressures in real time. Physical silver acted as both a lever and a signal, demonstrating how supply constraints can be exploited to influence pricing and sentiment. This interplay between paper and physical markets is central to understanding why coordinated attacks can be so effective, and why the Shanghai market often leads global pricing when structural stress emerges. For anyone holding silver or derivatives, the Christmas midnight attack is a warning. Markets can be influenced quietly, even when headline prices appear stable. Investors must understand that liquidity, timing, and physical availability play crucial roles in price discovery. Ignoring structural market forces exposes positions to unexpected stress. The attack demonstrates that even sophisticated participants can be tested when coordinated forces exploit systemic vulnerabilities. Awareness of these hidden pressures allows traders and investors to position themselves intelligently and anticipate potential volatility before it materializes in mainstream pricing. The attack leaves markets in a fragile state. Cross-market arbitrage remains stressed, futures and physical markets are misaligned, and leveraged positions are vulnerable. If similar coordinated interventions occur, volatility could spike dramatically. This does not necessarily mean an uncontrolled crash, but it does indicate that price movements may become less predictable. Pre-MIUMS may widen, and structural vulnerabilities could be exposed in unexpected ways. Market participants should monitor both physical flows and futures positioning closely. Understanding the underlying structure of silver markets, rather than just price charts, is critical in anticipating the next moves. This was not a normal holiday fluctuation or speculative frenzy. It was a coordinated strategic intervention by powerful entities exploiting thin liquidity, global timing differences, and structural dependencies in the silver market. It revealed how fragile the system can be, how arbitrage can be disrupted, and how institutions can be stressed even without dramatic price crashes. The Christmas midnight attack is a lesson in the mechanics of control, demonstrating that markets are not always driven by supply, demand, or speculation. They are sometimes driven by deliberate strategy. For anyone observing, understanding these events is more valuable than chasing price predictions. This night will be remembered not for the price change itself, but for the hidden dynamics it revealed. The Christmas midnight attack on silver was not about headlines or immediate profits. It was about testing the system, exploiting structural vulnerabilities, and demonstrating control. Arbitrage was broken, physical scarcity signals were amplified, and institutional positions were stressed. For investors, this event is a wake-up call. Markets can be manipulated quietly. Price charts alone cannot reveal the full truth. Understanding the mechanics behind the numbers is essential. If this breakdown gave you a new perspective on the silver market, subscribe to Boring Silver Mystery. Like this video and share your thoughts in the comments. Markets rarely reveal their secrets openly. They act quietly, testing systems and exposing fragility. Stay alert, because the most important market events don't happen in the headlines, they happen under the cover of darkness. This is Boring Silver Mystery, where quiet data reveals explosive truths.